Dawn breaks on a schedule already half spent. The red pen has carved through another page. The next car is idling, the aides are 2 steps behind. 75 is supposed to be a summit where one lingers for the view. Princess Anne looks at it like another ridgeline. Climb, check bearings, keep moving. The country, burned by noise and desperate for competence, has started to notice a paradox. While others trade headlines, the king's sister has made usefulness its own headline. The closer her birthday comes, the busier she becomes, not from vanity, but from a stubborn promise that if there's strength in the legs, it belongs to the work. Charity leaders who've shared cramped backrooms and windblown field sites with her say the same thing in different registers. She is low-key until there's a knot to untie, modest until modesty wastes time, warm without seeking warmth back, and blessed with a wit that can slice through pomposity like a wire through clay. In a year when Britain's nerves feel frayed by cost, conflict, and the endless static of argument, Anne's soft power has turned into steel cabling, nearly invisible, bearing real load. Soft power, in her hands, is not a panel discussion, it's a pattern. 55 years with Save the Children is not a title, it's a ledger of days. Classrooms where the paint is tired, but the children are bright. Crowded halls where supporters stand shoulder to shoulder to be thanked. Long flights followed by longer drives to see programs where 1 in 3 UK children lives in relative poverty, and where global crises turn childhood into hazard. The numbers are blunt, tens of millions raised, tens of thousands of hands shaken not for optics, but out of respect, and the impression is blunter. She keeps showing up where outcomes are made, not where microphones are tallest. Those who run the organizations she backs talk about her influence without theatrics. A patron who does not drag them toward politics, yet lifts them above apathy. A president who reads the brief so closely that she can interrogate the footnotes. A visitor who stands in the cold a half hour longer than planned, because the last volunteer on the line has something worth saying. She nudges forward, is how one chief executive put it, gently, persistently, and with a memory for promises that frightens those who make casual ones. This would be impressive in any year. It is remarkable in this one. A summer accident that sent her straight to intensive care could have been the curtain call. An honorable pause, a dignified withdrawal, perhaps a televised reflection about slowing down. Instead, 3 weeks later she walked back into duty with a doctor's warning folded quietly inside a pocket, and a line that landed like a vow. Every day now is a bonus. She did not perform resilience. She practiced it, choosing, with a characteristic flashing practicality, to let her first return engagement be with riders whose grit she knows in her bones. The message was not romantic. It was instructional. We are not here to display recovery. We are here to do what we said we would do. There is, always, a comparisons game in royal commentary. This time it flatters her for the right reason. Observers who understood the late Duke of Edinburgh's restless curiosity see his imprint in his daughter's method. The refusal to sit through a briefing as a spectator, the habit of pressing "how does it work?" until the explanation holds, the willingness to disagree without making disagreement a spectacle. In spaces that worship soft consensus, she gives the harder gift of precision. She arrives prepared, she reads what others skim, and she treats scholarship, science, engineering, design, not as decorative talk, but as tools built to pry open better outcomes. If you are faking expertise, avoid her eye line. None of this would matter if the stamina were theatrical. It isn't. She has supported more than 300 charities and organizations, and when asked how she wished to mark her own milestone, she refused the mirror and built a forum. Bring them together, let them talk to one another, let the palace, for once, act as a junction not a stage. It was the anti-gala, no couture parade, no choreographed self-homage. Just the quiet electricity that jumps across a room when practitioners, who usually work in silos, realize their missions lock together like joints. That is soft power at its highest setting. Convene the people who can move mountains and then get out of their way. The public admires glamour, it trusts stamina. Anne's stamina is not only physical, the famously tight timetables, the miles chalked up between county shows and research labs, the unflashy flights to places where aid is not a photo, but a lifeline. It is also temperamental. She is the first to puncture the balloon of flattery with a one-liner, the first to stiff-arm the limelight, the first to send a note after a visit that lists exactly what was promised, and when she expects to see it done. Leaders dread that postcard. They also frame it. There's an odd comfort in watching her work, while the institution she helps carry learns new balances. A slimmed-down monarchy can starve itself, it can also cut to fighting weight. Anne makes the latter case with her diary. The king needed cover this year. She extended it without complaint or theatre. The heir needed room to push into housing and early years reform. She held the flank so he could. The Princess of Wales needed space to recover with dignity, and turned the cameras toward causes rather than corridors. This is the choreography the public rarely sees and benefits from most, not the balcony, but the handoffs. Even her manner of not always agreeing serves the work. In a nation tired of flannel, frankness is service. Colleagues describe conversations that run on questions rather than compliments. Why this approach? What's the success rate? Who is accountable? And leave them both slightly bruised and considerably better. The hallmark of that style is preparation. She is not theatrical when she raises an eyebrow, she is evidential. That's why organizations bring their best people to meet her, not because they want the photo, but because they are unlikely to bluff their way through a second with her. The glamour in all this, if one can use the word at all, arrives in miniature. A championship arena where disabled riders will pass her and feel, for a moment, taller than their fear. A church hall where a volunteer's voice steadies, as she hears her mission named out loud. A research fellow whose scholarship check carries a lineage back to Prince Albert and who finds, to his surprise, that a princess will argue the finer points of his project, as if she'd sat in the same lab. These scenes do not scream, they accumulate. They are the antonym of performative politics, and that is why they read as power. It is fashionable to ask senior royals about legacy, and to expect the answer to be built of stone or statute. Anne's answer is built of cadence. Keep going. Skip the unnecessary. Put your back into the necessary. She does not hoard credit, or hunger for the camera. She does not pretend neutrality when clarity helps. She shows up in places that have learned to doubt promises, and leaves them with the smaller, stronger thing, proof. So as Friday approaches and the newspapers pre-write their tributes, avoid the trap of measuring her by the frame. Measure her by the friction she removes. By the hours other people no longer waste. By the projects that did not stall, because someone high enough up the chain cared enough to read to the end of the memo. By the organizations that walked a little quicker after she left the room, because they knew she would be back, and soon, and watching. If you need a single image to hold the paradox of her public life, take this one. A corridor at dusk, the day's last meeting running long, an aide murmuring that the car is ready. She is still asking questions. Not because the cameras are there, they left 40 minutes ago, but because the answer might change how a program works for a child whose name she will never know. That's not royalty as theater. That's royalty as trade. 75 will come and go. The jokes will be wicked, the handshake firm, the timetable remorseless. She will call the birthday a milestone only insofar as it marks another stretch of road she intends to cover. Britain, a little steadier for watching, will accept the gift as it was meant, without fuss. And then, while the ink dries on the headlines, the King's sister will be exactly where she has always preferred to be, half a page ahead, pen in hand, making sure the next promise lands on time.